Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, and welcome to the Global Cold Chain Alliance webinar on the upcoming Global Cold Chain Expo. My name is Catharine Perry. I'm the Senior Director of Talent and Member Programs at GCCA, and also the show manager for the Global Cold Chain Expo. So we're excited to share this next few minutes with you and share some of the exciting new things happening in 2018. And then ultimately how you can make the most of your experience and your team's experience while you're here in Chicago in June. So we'll get started here. And there's really three purposes for our webinar today. So the first is to describe the features of the expo and what you'll see when you come to the event. Secondly, to define audiences for the event. Who should you send? Who will get the most out of the experience, and then finally explain how the Cold Chain Expo fits into the larger puzzle that is GCCA and all the other educational offerings that we have, because we do have quite a few. So understanding really that puzzle of how Cold Chain Expo fits in with your employees and team's development will be really helpful for you to hopefully help you identify what audiences should be coming to Chicago every year, in addition to our other events as well. So while the name implies that attendees will experience an expo while they're at the Global Cold Chain Expo, it's also, and some might argue more importantly, a learning event. And this learning event is facilitated through a 2.5-day education conference that's really geared towards the manager audience across all functional areas of our IARW warehouses. So that educational experience kicks off on Monday, and it starts and ends with a keynote. Each keynote that we have selected is purposely a food industry leader from retail or food processing, so that attendees get a practical view of what trends and business challenges their customers are facing, and then ultimately, most relevant to them, what customers expect out of facility operations. So those keynotes really start off the conference and then also end the conference on Wednesday. So that opening keynote on Monday, you'll see, is then followed by breakout sessions. So we have 6 breakouts, and then to end the day on Monday, we have a panel of food processors and retailers in our customer panel. So this half-day educational conference on Monday, the content is focused on attendees' role and function, which is similar for those of you who have attended IARW conventions in previous years, those focus sessions that we used to have at IARW convention. This is exactly what Monday afternoon looks like. So those breakout sessions that are particularly relevant to our manager audience. The Monday conference has been followed by more programming on Tuesday and Wednesday. Specifically on Tuesday, we have regional roundtables where individuals can discuss best practices with peers in their area, and then show floor education following that, that morning roundtable. And these show floor sessions are really focused on innovations and new technologies that put folks that are running facilities and running warehouses in the operations or engineering side directly in front of the latest and greatest technologies that they should be considering as they look towards continuous improvement in their operations or in capital budget requests in the future. So finally, closing it out on Wednesday, following Monday and Tuesday programming, we end with our closing keynote. And again, this would be another food industry executive from the retail space who will talk about trends in the industry. So that's our 2.5-day program on the education side. So there's a lot going on. We have some great speakers lined up that we already have topics available for on the website. So you can take a look at globalcoldchainexpo.org to see what is going to be showcased on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday of our education component of the Global Cold Chain Expo. So this leads us to the name of the event, the Expo. So this educational conference is actually built around this trade show. And for those of you who are familiar with or perhaps have attended the IARW trade show in the past, when it used to be with convention. This is it, except that we have made a lot of enhancements to it. And the differences now are that it's really strategically open to more people than ever before. In the past, as you know, the IARW convention and expo is really focused on our leaders, on our senior level executives. So opening up this expo to a broader audience really allows people to take advantage of it even more than before. It's positioned at the right place at the right time. We're in Chicago. It's easy to get in and out of Chicago. So we're hoping that'll also allow people to, the folks that utilize these products and services on a daily basis can interact with the expo relatively easy. And then finally, we have expanded to be co-located with 4 other strategically placed trade shows that represent everything from the floral to food supply chain. And you'll see on the screen there, we have the breakdown of the 5 different expos that we'll now see on the trade show floor, all co-located, all right next to each other. So we can really maximize our time there, and attendees can see exhibitors from a myriad of different categories. So now that we know what the expo at the education program looks like, let's look at our audiences. So there are a couple of distinct audiences that benefit from walking the show floor, namely in 2 areas. And those 2 areas are operations and engineering. So if you think about the ideal audience and what that's driven by, there's really 2 main reasons for attending an expo and conference. First, for learning, and then second, for making purchasing decisions. So both learning and purchasing can happen on that show floor. So even outside of the structured education conference, the conversations that attendees are having on the show floor with exhibitors, with their service providers and equipment providers are meant to be educational in nature. They're learning what works with the product, what doesn't work with the product, how to increase efficiency, how to better use equipment that they already have in their existing facilities. So it's not always a purchasing decision. Sometimes it might be, but it's not always with a vendor. It can be a productive conversation regardless of whether you're making a capital investment about the existing equipment and technology that a manager, a regional general manager, or a facility general manager might have in their warehouse. And that can be a productive conversation so that they can better utilize the equipment that they already have in front of them. So with that, a few of the operations and engineering audiences that we have identified here. You'll see their titles on the screen, but I can talk briefly about each of these individually. So on the operations side, this is really designed for the mid-management team of operations people. So it'd be people that are running buildings on the front lines on a day-to-day basis, whether that's the GM or a regional director, a regional general manager. Those teams of people on the operations side are really going to get a lot out of both the expo and the education conference. Next, we have the engineering side, and this is really where the folks that are responsible for major capital expenditures, like considering automation, warehouse management systems, packaged refrigeration systems. These folks would get a lot out of also attending the expo and education conference. And both on the operations and engineering side, we have specific educational tracks on Monday afternoon for them to dive deeper into their roles because we do have that role-based education. And then finally, you'll see these people vary in title, and that is because this expo really is meant for a broad audience, and we encourage you all to bring teams of people. So we have meeting space that we are happy to offer our IARW members as a benefit of membership, offer you complimentary meeting space to host a company meeting there in conjunction with the expo. So we really want you to be able to bring your teams of operations people, bring your teams of engineering, and host that company meeting on site at Global Cold Chain Expo And we also have a special rate for our IARW warehouse members that we'll be sharing with everyone who attends this webinar, and even folks that are listening on the recorded version. We do have that special rate for IARW warehouse members exclusively as a benefit of your membership. So finally, GCCA. So how does the Global Cold Chain Expo fit into the broader puzzle of offerings that we have as an association? Because there are so many. We have training programs, webinars, online learning, convention. It doesn't seem to end the content that we have that we're giving you. So we want to make sure that we're appropriately articulating who the audience is for each of these events. So we have broken that down in this to visually show you what we're looking at. So the IARW WFLO convention is still focused on big picture general business speakers. You may have remembered in 2016 is when we officially made this switch to this more triangle looking format. So it's focused on big picture business speakers. We're at a nice luxury resort generally that attracts a high level of attendee, mainly C-suite, senior VPs, perhaps regional VPs of operations would also be in attendance. But it's really meant to attract that senior executive level. Next, we have the Global Cold Chain Expo, which is really meant to attract our mid-management, operations, folks and engineering teams, and then ideally these would also be institute graduates, so general managers or supervisors that you may have sent to WFLO Institute in the past that are high performers and looking to grow. This would be a great location for them to take that next step at the Global Cold Chain Expo, which also happens to be co-located with our WFLO Graduate Institute as well. And then the last piece on here is our Institute training program, which looking at the attendee list, a lot of you are familiar with this, so I'm preaching to the choir here. But this Institute training program is really meant for our frontline warehouse operators, supervisors, high potentials, individuals that you see really growing within your company that you want to reward and send for additional learning and development through the association. So this is how the Global Cold Chain Expo really fits into the bigger picture of GCCA. And I look forward to answering any questions that you have at this point. It was a relatively quick webinar, but a lot of content thrown at you. So at this point, feel free to add questions in the question panel, which is located on your screen there. It'll say questions, and you can submit those to staff. I'll just wait a second here and let you enter any questions you may have. All right, we got a question here about what is the IARW rate. So we have established a rate for IARW members of $200, and that's inclusive of the education, expo package, everything. So it's a great value for what you're getting. And we wanted to reward IARW members for being members of the association and make that feasible for you to send all of your teams. So again, with that, we encourage you to send your operations, engineering teams. You can contact myself at cperry@gcca.org. I apologize, I didn't put my email on the screen, but I can definitely send that out via email as well to all of you who attended, so we can get your teams registered for 2018. With that, I think we'll close out the webinar. So thanks everyone for listening. Look forward to seeing you in Chicago, and let us know, anyone on the GCCA team, if you have any questions or what we can do to help additionally. So thanks for your time.